Well, folks, last night, Joe Biden gave a speech in the Oval Office that was intended to stir support for the state of Israel in its fight against terrorism. And in the middle of that speech, he started just jabbering about the peace process. Presumably, the helpers in that peace process on the Palestinian side will be the Palestinian Authority. There's only one problem, which is that they largely support the goals of Hamas. Here is Joe Biden.
Look, at the same time, President Netanyahu and I discussed again yesterday the critical need for Israel to operate by the laws of war. That means protecting civilians in combat as best as they can. The people of Gaza urgently need food, water, and medicine. Yesterday, in discussions with the leaders of Israel and Egypt, I secured an agreement for the first shipment of humanitarian assistance from the United Nations to Palestinian civilians in Gaza. If Hamas does not divert or steal these shipments, we're going to provide an opening for sustained delivery of life-saving humanitarian assistance for the Palestinians.
Okay, so question. There's still 200 hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza. Where do you think that money's going to go? What distributive mechanism do you have for that money? The answer is they have no distributive mechanism. How do we know that? It's because they're openly admitting it. So, for example, here is a Biden State Department spokesperson explaining, his name is Matt Miller, that sure, Hamas might steal the cash. This is literally yesterday.
The concern the Israeli government has, and they've said this publicly, and they certainly said it privately to us, is that any assistance that goes in will be diverted once it's inside Gaza. That there's not an Israeli military force in Gaza. There's not a UN peacekeeping force in Gaza. The people with guns inside Gaza are Hamas. And so Hamas may try to divert this assistance and keep it from getting to the civilians who it is intended for. We think that's a legitimate concern. We've made clear that this aid needs to go to innocent civilians and not Hamas. We're going to be watching very carefully how it's delivered because we want to be sensitive to those concerns, which we share.
Oh, well, you're going to be watching carefully. Well, that's important, is that if you watch really carefully, if you use your binoculars from afar, which is what you will be doing, then probably Hamas won't steal that aid. By the way, if you don't believe him, you could also listen to the Biden Deputy NSA Director, John Feiner, who basically said, we trust Hamas, the terrorists. Like, well, we'll just give them $100 million. They'll probably be fine.
The president pledged $100 million in an aid package to Palestinian civilians, innocent civilians in Gaza and the West Bank. How is the United States going to ensure that none of that ends up in the hands of Hamas?
Getting assistance into Gaza is a complicated undertaking. It involves essentially securing an understanding among Hamas fighters who control the checkpoint on the other side of the border, among the government of Israel and among the government of Egypt.
But the question is, from what you just said, is the U.S. then essentially in a position where it has to take the word of Hamas that it will not be taken? I mean, what other guarantee can there be?
We believe there is an understanding now among all of the players who control that crossing, the Rafah crossing in Egypt.
Oh, there's an understanding, is there, with Hamas? Well, that changes everything, as long as there's an understanding. So again, this is the kind of weakness that invites further terrorism, that invites further exploration of American weakness. Again, Joe Biden kept going along these lines. So again, he kept over and over and over pushing on this two-state solution stuff in the middle of a war against people who are dedicated to Israel's destruction and the murder of Jews. He kept pushing on it like over and over last night. And when that wasn't enough, he then started ripping on American Islamophobia. Yeah, I have a question. There is a horrible, horrible, evil case of a demented person, an evil person who should get the death penalty, killing a 6-year-old Palestinian kid in America. That horrible evil condemned by literally everyone. Everyone. Meanwhile, there are mass protests across the United States on behalf of Hamas. So naturally, Joe Biden is going to put heavy emphasis on Islamophobia in the United States and lecturing the American people that we can't be Islamophobic in this moment. And then reminding us of how Islamophobic we were after 9/11, which is weird because there's not a lot of evidence to suggest mass Islamophobia in the aftermath of 9/11, not by hate crime statistics from the FBI. In any case, here is Joe Biden. Again, this is the middle of a speech in the aftermath of the worst terror attack on Jews, the worst slaughter of Jews, the worst pogrom against Jews since the Holocaust, followed by widespread public demonstrations in favor of the massacring, in favor of the terrorists. And Joe Biden's like, well, we do have to worry about how intolerant you, the American people, are. You might be Islamophobic. Watch yourselves. Everyone here at the office loves the Genucel Dark Spot Corrector. You might be asking what that product even does. Well, if you have sunspots, dark spots, discoloration, dry skin, the Genucel Dark Spot Corrector will help those blemishes disappear. Kimberly from Youngstown, Ohio says, my appearance has improved so much since using Genucel. I love all my Genucel products. My skin looks younger. Well, you can feel like Kimberly as well. You have to hurry because the sale is ending soon. Now, How do I know that Genucel works? Well, because I've used Genucel for years. My parents, my wife, Genucel first advertised on a show that I was on in like 2013. And even after I wasn't on that show anymore, we just kept using the product because it's that good. Take advantage of Genucel's most popular package. It includes the beloved dark spot corrector. This package also includes Genucel's classic under eye treatment. You'll get all these products for almost 70% off. Genucel is so confident in their product, you can try them for yourself completely risk-free. If you don't see immediate results, you will get your money back. It's simple. Go to Genucel.com/Shapiro. Start looking years, even decades younger tomorrow. Say hello to the best skin you've ever had at Genucel.com/Shapiro. Again, that is Genucel.com/Shapiro. Genucel.com/Shapiro. Regardless of your religion, you need a little more peace in your life, and Hallow is an incredible app that offers a unique approach to prayer and meditation. Unlike other meditation apps, Hallow is tailored specifically for people of faith to deepen their relationship with God. The Hallow app is filled with studies, meditations, and reflections rooted in Judeo-Christian prayer practices. You can pray alongside Mark Wahlberg, Jonathan Rumi, who portrays Jesus in The Chosen, even some world-class athletes. You can access the #1 Christian podcast, The Bible in a Year, with Father Mike Schmitz on Hallow. With features like progress tracking and streaks, Hallow helps you stay motivated and make prayer a regular part of your daily routine. Set prayer reminders. Invite others to pray with you. Track your progress along the way. Again, we in the Jewish community, we pray 3 times a day minimum. And I got to tell you, without that, I'd be going totally insane right now. If you are looking to deepen your relationship with God and improve your mental and emotional well-being, try Hallow for 3 months free at hallow.com/Shapiro. Again, that's hallow.com/Shapiro. Here was Joe Biden last night.
And here at home, we have to be honest with ourselves. In recent years, too much hate has given too much oxygen, fueling racism, the rise of anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia, right here in America. It's also intensified in the wake of recent events that led to the horrific threats and attacks that both shock us and break our hearts. On October 7th, terror attacks have triggered deep scars and terrible memories in the Jewish community. Today, Jewish families worried about being targeted in school, wearing symbols of their faith, walking down the street, or going out about their daily lives. I know many of you in the Muslim American community, the Arab American community, the Palestinian American community, and so many others are outraged and heartened, saying to yourselves, here we go again with Islamophobia and distrust we saw.
Oh, I know that's my chief worry today. I know that as the Jewish people are under existential threat in Israel, my deep worry is that there are offended Palestinian Americans in America who are marching with Hamas flags. I know that is deeply worrying to me. By the way, what he's saying about the Jewish community in the United States, that's 100% true. Okay, every Jew that I know in the state of Florida is arming up. Every single one, without exception. I spent part of yesterday at a gun range. The entirety of people at the gun range were Orthodox Jews, all of them. There's a reason for that. And it's because Hamas has called for global terror and Hezbollah has called for global terror. And there is a DHS notification that has gone out globally to basically everybody about the rise in this. And so Joe Biden focusing like a laser beam on what matters, Islamophobia, as always, because Americans, we're the real problem. We're the real problem. He also made sure to point out that he lectured Israel again some more. So this discombobulated speech, it's super discombobulated. Again, a strong message would have been this. Israel is a democracy. Israel is a Jewish state. Israel deserves American support in the face of existential genocidal terrorism. Israel will have American support in the extermination of Hamas, and everybody else better get the F off the line. Iran and its proxies, they're evil, and if they step off that line, they will get clocked so hard that they will not be able to walk in the morning. That's the message. Because that will push Iran off the ball, and it will give Israel the space it needs to get rid of Hamas. That could have been the entire message last night. Instead, he decided to muddy the waters with tons about Ukraine and American Islamophobia and how he's going to lecture Israel about not making the mistakes of 9/11. By the way, those mistakes of 9/11, let me just point out, that did not include America's destruction of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. The reason he has to talk about the mistakes of 9/11 is because of his mistake in reversing all of the progress made in Afghanistan by abandoning the place to the Taliban. But here he was trying to pretend the big mistake of 9/11 was us, trying to kill Osama bin Laden and go in and depose the Taliban. That was the big mistake. Like, what the hell is he talking about here?
When I was in Israel yesterday, I said that when America experienced the hell of 9/11, we felt enraged as well. While we sought and got justice, we made mistakes. So I cautioned the government of Israel not to be blinded by rage.
Not to be blinded by rage. Go and take us. take a long walk off a short pier, blinded by rage. Yeah, you're right. That's the message Americans needed to hear after 9/11 also. When we watch 3,000 American citizens being slaughtered and people having to jump to their deaths from the 88th story to avoid being burned to death, probably what Americans really needed was a message of like, take it a little easy, guys. Super insulting stuff. Now, not everything the president said last night was bad. Him calling for the military aid to Israel is necessary. But the fact that he keeps muddying the waters in the Middle East, the only thing that matters is perception of strength. It is literally the only thing that matters. Moral suasion does not work in the Middle East. Appeals to Western notions of liberal enlightenment and the individual worth of every human being. Those are things that do not work in the Middle East. Pretending that they do is idiocy. And the fact that Biden keeps going back to that if we force Israel to be kinder or make concessions to the Palestinians, if we give humanitarian aid to Gaza, dude, it's going to stop Hezbollah from attacking? It ain't humanitarian aid to Gaza. What's going to stop Hezbollah from attacking in the north is the notion that if they do, Israel will be rearmed to the teeth and those American aircraft carriers are going to unleash their power on Hezbollah. That's going to stop Hezbollah from doing the thing in the first place. Again, Joe Biden has done a lot of good things since this conflict broke out. Last night's speech was definitely not one of them. Are you tired of the lies and the twists of the mainstream media talking points? Yeah, me too. Join me in my newest series, Fact, where I dismantle and bring truth to this tiring mainstream agenda.